Hello and welcome to GameSet. Let's take a look at some games which are better than the same game or samely named game on more powerful consoles. For example, Tetris on the NES or hell even the Game Boy is way better than Tetris on any other console. I doubt too many people would disagree with that, and if they do, they're wrong. First up, I've got a couple of ports of an arcade game, but I'm not comparing these two ports to the arcade, just to each other. This is Double Dragon 2 on the Mega Drive from Palsoft. This game was only released in Japan. This title aims to port the arcade as faithfully as it can, and, well, it can't. It only has 4 megabits of memory, and the entire game is only running on half of a cylinder. 1 or 2 players can play at the same time. The controls are just like the arcade. A attacks to the left and C attacks to the right no matter what direction you're facing. B jumps. The elbow smashes here, but the power move in this game is the tornado kick. Jump straight up and press the attack button for behind you. It does a lot of damage, but good luck pulling it off. Mainly because it's hard not to constantly be taking a beating by the enemies. They often surround you, and you have no limited invincibility time after you fall down. It can feel relentless. The game is far from optimized. It can slow down to a crawl when you're the only one on screen, then speed back up when 2 or 3 enemies come on. What the hell? Mostly it runs very slow though. Probably 90 to 95% of the time the game is experiencing rather severe lag. Hell, the screen can't even scroll smoothly in any direction. The collision detection is quite bad. Look at this. Yeah, sometimes it can work in your favor, but often not. It can also be really tough to pick up items that can be used as weapons. You have to be right on the exact pixel. Despite all of this, the game can feel a bit easy and there are only 4 missions. The graphics are rather bland with nothing that pops out at all. Mission 3 here is as colorful as it gets. The music though is actually fairly decent for its time. The sound effects are mostly pretty ugly. Just listen to these death yells. Yikes. Overall, it's easy to see why this wasn't brought out in the West. Double Dragon 2 on the NES, though, did come to the West. It was developed by Technos and published by Acclaim. Holy hell, this version is so much better. Technos changed the design of the stages quite a bit, just like they did with the first Double Dragon on the NES. Unlike that one, 2 players can play at once in this game. The NES only has 2 buttons, so the controls are somewhat compromised. B always attacks to the left and A always attacks to the right. You need to press both buttons at once to jump. The jump kicks are a bit more difficult to connect with here, but it can be done just fine once you get used to it. The tornado kick is still in here as well. Once you get used to the controls, you can go for Broack. Yeah, that's what I want to do. The game as a whole runs much faster than it does on the Mega Drive, and it feels like they may have actually finished the game before they released it. What a novel concept! I like some of the battles here, like on this helicopter where the defective door keeps opening and closing. It's a great way to dispose of the enemies. Or get disposed of yourself if you're not careful. There are some story cutscenes before each level to add to the overall presentation. There are more missions here as well. In my opinion, the graphics are much better here than they are on the Mega Drive. They're brighter and not as washed out. The characters all look more simple, yet they're more pleasing to look at. Much of the music features the same tunes, just redone NES style. And they sound really good here. As there are more missions, there's more music. The new tunes are fine, but the arcade tunes that they brought over have the catchier melodies. So yeah, if you want to play Double Dragon 2 and you only have these 2 to choose from, you're going to have the better time on the NES. Here's the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 on the PlayStation 2 by Electronic Arts and Black Box. This is a game where you race cars. Well, at least in most of the modes you race cars. What you want to do here is beat all of the other cars if you can. It's a great concept for a game. But there are other modes here where the police are pretty much everywhere along the road. They're looking for speeders, and guess what you're doing? They start to chase after you and you need to evade them. This is sometimes easier said than done. They'll even set up spike strips and roadblocks to try to stop you. You can look all around you with a tap of the L2 button. Or you can see what's ahead of you by tapping the R2 button to use your trail of fire view, just like a real speeding criminal. If you get caught, you get a ticket, but of course you're allowed to continue on your way no matter what craziness you pulled before this. If you get caught 3 times in a single race, it's done and you need to try again. These cops can be rather difficult at times, so don't think it's going to be a piece of cake. There's even a mode where you can play as the cop. Though tempting, your goal in this mode isn't to win the race, but instead to catch all of the speeding sports cars by bashing them down. I didn't like this mode as much, but at least it's a change of pace. This really is a great game.
31 County, I'll be stopping a vehicle that's all over the road.
Copy 31.
31 County, commencing pursuit. Vehicle is a red sports car.
I copy 31.
31 County, request more units.
The Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 also came out on the Xbox. The Xbox is a way more powerful console than the PlayStation 2, if you didn't know. This one wasn't developed by Black Box for some reason, but instead by EA Seattle. And man, this one feels really empty and lifeless compared to the PlayStation 2 game. The stages are similar, but it feels like this world is dead in comparison. I'd say it's even worse graphically, which is insane for an Xbox title. Compared to the PS2 game, the textures are more mushy, simple, and, well, kinda gross. This version feels more like a souped-up Nintendo 64 game than a proper Xbox game. Gameplay-wise, it's also a bit less intense, though don't get me wrong, it's still fun to play. In this version, the cops start chasing you before you even get to them, unlike the PS2 game where they start chasing you after you pass them. This seems less realistic. You don't have the ability to look ahead with a trail of fire like you do in the PS2 game. If it's there, I couldn't find it. I pressed every button. The big jumps here are also a bit different. Here's one on the PlayStation 2. And now, here's an Xbox jump. Yeah, that wasn't really very exciting, was it? One thing that is nice though is that you can listen to your own custom soundtrack instead of the licensed music that's included with the game. There's also a GameCube version of the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, which was also done by EA Seattle. And yes, in most aspects I would say that the GameCube is more powerful than the PlayStation 2. This one is more or less just like the Xbox game, except there are no custom soundtracks allowed here. So while each game is definitely fun, the PlayStation 2 is the one that you really want to play. Up next is a game that all of us old people were super hyped for when the original PlayStation launched. Almost everyone wanted this game. Battle Arena Toshinden from Tamsoft and Takara was a launch game for the original PlayStation. For its time, this 3D fighting game looks fantastic, and it was responsible for a lot of people choosing the console over the Saturn with its basic-looking Virtua Fighter. I mean, if you're a teenager back in 1995, which one of these two games are you going to choose? You likely haven't played either before, so you're probably going to go with Battle Arena Toshinden. It makes the PlayStation look way more powerful, and the choice was clear for a great many people. This is a weapons-based fighting game, but don't worry, you don't actually cut people with your weapons, they're just basically there for show. They do look cool though. Unfortunately, as we all know these days, this game is mediocre at best. It's rather slow and awkward in pretty much every regard. Well, except for the music, it certainly has some catchy tunes. Back in the day, we didn't really know or understand how not very fun this game actually is because there wasn't a whole lot to compare it to. It turns out that the original Virtua Fighter is a hell of a lot more enjoyable, basic glitchy graphics and all. These days, you're not likely to find anyone proclaiming the greatness of this game or even any of its sequels. It has, shall we say, aged poorly. But what about Battle Arena Toshinden on the original Game Boy? Obviously, it's not a 3D fighting game since the Game Boy can only do 2D. It may not look like it, but it is a way better game. You only have 2 attack buttons, but you can pull off most of your moves with a little bit of practice. It plays as a normal 2D fighter, for the most part. It actually retains the ring outs that exist in many 3D fighting games. However, they work a bit differently. If you or your opponent touches the edge of the stage for any reason whatsoever, one of the arrows next to their name disappears. Once all of the arrows are gone, ring out starts to flash, which means they can now be knocked out of the ring. It's a pretty fun tactic to employ in a 2D fighting game. You can adjust how many arrows you want, if any, in the options screen. You have 8 characters to choose from, and 2 more via a code that you're given when you beat the game. Each character has their own story for you to enjoy. The 8th fight is always against yourself. Be careful, because the CPU knows way more moves than you do, and it also has a much more responsive controller. After that is the final boss fight, Gaia. This can also be played with 2 players via the link cable. Graphically, the game is fine. I mean, this is the Game Boy. It has a Super Game Boy mode, however, and that means it gets its very own border wallpaper. The game graphics here don't look particularly good or improved, but the story screens can look pretty nice. Yeah. The music is great, and if you're familiar with the PlayStation game, you'll recognize a lot of the tunes here. Not only is this the best Toshinden game, it might be the best fighting game on the Game Boy. Here's Viewpoint on the Genesis from Sammy, developed by Nexus Interact. This is an okay game based on an arcade that itself wasn't spectacular by any means when it comes to gameplay, but it certainly has some moments where it can shine. The isometric viewpoint, hence the title, does not do nice things for the gameplay as you don't have much room to maneuver as a result. You can shoot, get options which increase your firepower, and you can build up a charge shot. You also have 3 different styles of bombs which can prove to be very helpful when fired at the right time. I'll say that it is satisfying when things blow up in this one. It does slow down a lot here, and it's rare when it's not chugging, as this game isn't exactly optimized for the hardware as much as it could be. It can be a blessing sometimes though, as it makes it easy to avoid the massive amounts of enemy fire. The graphics try. Of course, it can't really compete with the arcade, which was one of the first examples of pre-rendered graphics in a game. If the Genesis cartridge had more memory, I'm sure it could be better. That's right, I'm here to point out things that are painfully obvious. And if you're not experiencing a moderate amount of pain when watching GameSack, I am doing something wrong. The music does a decent job, and it even has some vocal samples. Overall, it's not an amazing game, but it's decent for its time given the technical constraints. Viewpoint on the significantly more powerful PlayStation is an entirely different story. This was published by EA, who farmed it out to High Score Entertainment, who themselves farmed it out to Visual Concepts. On pause, this one looks pretty good, doesn't it? But oh man, once you actually play it, you'll curse the day this game was even greenlit. If anything other than you is on screen, it slows down to 30 frames per second, often even lower. Now you might say, so what, the Genesis slows down too? Well, that's true, and the slowdown is less severe here. However, the in-game objects never slow down, just the frame rate. That makes this one feel far more choppy. This really messes with the control and makes it quite laggy. Hell, the entire game is a laggy mess. It takes several seconds for the music and sound to come on after you begin a level, it takes several seconds for the game to pause after you press start, and there are crazy loading times. Each and every time you die, you'll be staring at this screen for a while. Sometimes for a very long while. What the hell? Despite having a mono and stereo option, the gameplay and music are all in mono only. The back of the box even proudly proclaims CD quality soundtrack encoded in 3D stereo sound. Someone messed up. The music is also brand new stuff. It's not bad music at all, in fact I kinda like some of it, but why couldn't they just arrange the original game's excellent soundtrack? That was one of the standout features of the original game and they take that away here. Why? This version is also balls to the wall hard, even on the easiest difficulty. Way harder than the arcade. Check this part out. Yeah, what the hell? These things disappear, so I start to fly over to the clearing, then they reappear and instantly kill me. I then decided to try the invincibility cheat on GameFAQs. I tried it many times, in fact. Like a lot of codes that are on GameFAQs, it doesn't work. At least not on a real PlayStation. Thanks for nothing, Soccerboy105 and Red Day Sleeper. Why do people submit bad codes? Anyway, if you can't play the Neo Geo original, play the Genesis game. Just stay as far away from this one as you can. Alright, up next is something that I covered last time, but I promised that it's not a repeat, because today I'm comparing it to something else. Here's Ninja Gaiden on the NES from Tecmo, released in 1989. Yeah, I'm talking about Ninja Gaiden again. Last time I compared the 3 games on the NES to the Super NES compilation effort. This time I'm just looking at the first game here. As we pretty much all know, you play as an agile ninja named Ryu Hayabusa. The gameplay is quite good, but can be a bit unforgiving in the upper levels. It features the exciting bounce back mechanic where you bounce back when you take a hit. This is one of the first games in memory which had extensive cutscenes explaining the story. These are incredible, especially when you consider the time the game came out and the medium which they arrived on. This wasn't a CD game with loads of memory. The music is also extremely memorable with some pumpin' tunes. It goes without saying that we all love Ninja Gaiden, except for the people who don't for whatever reason. Just make sure you're up to date with your blood pressure medications. Three years later, Hudson Soft released Ninja Ryu Kenden on the PC Engine in Japan, also known as Ninja Gaiden. This version was ported by Hudson Era HK in Hong Kong, which itself is rather unusual. This was also the first game they did, ever. The second and last game that they did was Cotton for the TurboGrafx CD, which is actually a fantastic port. For Ninja Gaiden, most of the gameplay mechanics were ported by looking at a videotape of someone playing the NES game. I'm not joking. Supposedly, this practice wasn't uncommon back then. First of all, the new graphics look pretty good with lots of extra color. The cutscene graphics in particular look quite a bit nicer. Unfortunately, the gameplay graphics are often marred by the horrible attempt at parallax scrolling. This is because the console can't natively do this, so they're adjusting the far background one whole tile at a time, which isn't a pleasant effect. The graphics are fantastic on pause, but all of the improved artistry is ruined by that damned scrolling. Nice effort, but they should have just shipped a game without any attempt at parallax. Then nobody would have complained about the visuals. Then there's the music, which was mostly changed for some reason. The new stuff isn't necessarily bad, but it's certainly not as good as the NES tunes. I have no nostalgia for the NES music, so I can say with a fair bit of confidence which one is more enjoyable to listen to. It really is too bad, as I think those old tunes would sound fantastic on the PC Engine hardware. Gameplay-wise, it's close, but not a 100% match. The collision detection has been changed ever so slightly, and you can tell. One thing that is cool though is that the PC Engine game can be played in Japanese, Chinese, or English with the code. The English is its own translation and not the same as the NES game. I think that the PC Engine game would get a lot less hate and a hell of a lot more love if it didn't have the parallax or the changed music. But sadly, it does feature both of those things. This is Marble Madness on the NES, developed by Rare. This is based on the arcade game where you simply need to guide the marble to the goal as you travel on mazes viewed in an isometric perspective. The thing is, though, that you need to get past a bunch of obstacles and you have a strict time limit. You'll need to memorize the best way past each part of every level if you hope to make it to the end. And once you do, you'll find that the game really isn't very long. You have a speed increase button to help you get past parts like this where you need to launch over to the other side. If you stumble or break, that can cost you a lot of time. You certainly don't want to get dissolved by these living and moving acid puddles, or sucked into these annoying vacuums. On the 5th level, everything you know is wrong. Everything. If only a few things were wrong, they couldn't say everything. This entire stage is, well, it's silly. There, I said it. It's just plain silly. The final stage is pretty trippy with crazy hazards all over the place. The music can be pretty catchy and you'll hear it a lot as you keep practicing. Overall, this is a fun little game. Marble Madness should be way better on the 16-bit Genesis, right? It is not. In fact, right at the title screen, you can tell this game is going to be torture on your ears. The game controls well enough, it doesn't need a speed up button or anything like that. And it looks decent. But man, the audio absolutely kills the entire experience. Just utterly decimates it. I really can't believe that they released the game in this form. It's just not worth it, as the graphics aren't insanely better or anything like that. You are way better off playing this on the NES. A different version of Marble Madness exists for the console in Japan, made by Tengen themselves. The game sounds a lot better. In fact, it sounds exactly like the arcade. It offers some control options like a trackball feature by flipping the Sega mouse upside down. I've tried this and it doesn't work extremely well. The regular digital control is also a bit lacking, at least without heavily messing with the sensitivity settings. It's too bad because this could have been the ultimate version. So the NES game is better than both Marble Madnesses that showed up on Sega's 16-bit console, but for different reasons. Go figure. Sometimes even a better version of a game is a bit lackluster, but if you're forced to choose from among these three, well... Here's Doom on the Sega 32X. It was a launch game for the add-on. It's also the first console port of Doom, being released only a few days before the Atari Jaguar version. This one is missing a lot. It has 17 maps from the first 2 episodes, but none from the third. Many of the levels are also a little bit shorter. Gameplay-wise though, it's fine for the time. It moves at a decent speed. We didn't know any better back then that this wasn't an ideal frame rate or anything. Instead, we just enjoyed the game for what it was. It was cool to finally play Doom at home. I mean, I guess PCs are also home things, so let me rephrase that. It was cool to finally play Doom on a console. Despite the option screen not indicating it, you do get some extra functions if you use a 6-button controller. The music to the game sucks pretty hard, and it was obviously rushed. Doom on the way more powerful Saturn should be better, right? Nope. Just look how choppy it is. The frame rate can get extremely low. This can make it difficult to aim in a lot of situations. It also makes it feel like the game has a bit too much momentum. Supposedly, the original build of this one was leagues smoother, on par with the PlayStation version at the very least. But John Carmack nixed it because there was some texture warping, so they ended up quickly cobbling together what we're seeing here. These days, of course, Carmack regrets that decision. It's just too bad that he had final say in this particular version. The music is taken from the PlayStation port, and I love its moodiness, but it's all presented in mono here despite there being a stereo option. Instead, your gunshots come only from the left speaker, which sounds horribly wrong. You might as well just choose mono in the options to fix that. The 3DO version of Doom is also worse, despite obliterating the 32X in sheer power. Granted, this one was forced to be programmed in like 37 minutes or something due to an extremely strict deadline. I exaggerate, it was closer to 2 months. It is kind of amazing that it runs even this well for how short the development cycle was and also how few people worked on it. In this version, the momentum is dialed up to 1000, which makes it really tough to aim or even move where you want to go. This one has awesome music though. I can't think of any other official Doom port that has better music, can you? Still, Doom on the 32X beats out both the Saturn and 3DO when it comes to overall enjoyment and playability. Here's Darkwing Duck on the NES from Capcom, released in 1992. Naturally, this is based on the Disney Afternoon cartoon show, which was moderately popular at the time, and Capcom did their thing here. Despite being based on a Disney property, this game is definitely not for kids. Well, actually it is. Back in my day, kids were just tougher, and this game is indeed tough. You have 1 heart for your life and you can take 3 hits, but the 4th will kill you if you don't get some life back. There are suitcases which will restore all of your life and small vials which will restore 1 chunk. Darkwing Duck automatically hangs on certain items. The game relies heavily on this, and you'll soon find yourself having lots of fun with this mechanic. You shoot a gun as your weapon. It's powered by gas. Darkwing Duck has a lot of gas, 3 kinds in fact. He can use thunder gas, heavy gas, and arrow gas. You can press select to use that gas's special power shot. But you can run out since, unlike me during the evening, the gas doesn't last forever. You can collect more though. The thunder gas shoots diagonally up and down, which can be helpful at times. The heavy gas just kind of plops out before you and then shoots a couple of shots back and forth. And the arrow gas can be used as temporary ledges to hop up. It's never necessary though, and you can always get to where you're going without the arrow gas. It just makes it quicker in some cases. So as you probably have noticed, the gameplay is reminiscent of Mega Man, but not quite. I like how in this game, you can actually duck. I'll spare you a pun about a duck who can duck. Once you grab an icon in a stage, it's gone. By that, I mean if you die and restart, the icon is no longer there. This makes trying again even tougher because the life refills are gone. Fortunately, the enemies still drop them. If you fall off of a bottomless pit, you die and get set back a bit. But you never know what's a bottomless pit or not. Sometimes you need to drop down to continue on. Other times, well, it's death for you. You should have known better. And you will next time. The bosses can be pretty tough. In fact, the first boss is kind of insane for a first boss. You really need to get into a groove, and naturally he takes a ton of hits and he has no life bar. The other bosses are tough as well, but none really felt as tough as the first boss when I first fought him. Thankfully, the game has unlimited continues. The graphics are good for the NES, sometimes fairly good, like in this forest stage. The music is also good, though certainly not on the level of Mega Man. Darkwing Duck was also released in 1992 on the TurboGrafx-16 from Radiant Software and Interactive Designs. Like the NES game, you can choose what stage you want to go to first. I kind of like this magnifying glass effect. Unlike the NES game, your primary attack here is bouncing on enemies' heads. You have to press the button before you land on them, otherwise you're the one that gets hurt. You still have the gas gun, but it needs pellets to fire, and it has different effects depending on what color pellets you have. Its effectiveness ranges from useless to somewhat useless. Yeah, you're right, this is a completely different game than the NES version. Bite me. You can collect eggs to restore some health. You'll also need to collect puzzle pieces and D symbols. You can bounce off of these items just like you can any enemy. In fact, you need to master this to collect all of the puzzle pieces. You see, if you miss even one, you can complete the level, but you won't get the boss fight, so you have to get them all. The physics here are just horrible. You're kind of slippery, and it's very difficult to platform precisely. Some of the moving platforms you need to jump on have a very strange rhythm and can be difficult to time. The boss fights, once you get to them, are usually pretty easy, though you're gonna still take a few hits due to the crappy collision detection routine. After the boss fight, you get to readjust the puzzle pieces, and once you successfully do that, you can unlock the 4th level. That's right, only 4 levels here. Come on, can't they just give me the 4th level after having beaten the first 3 without needing me to do this nonsense? The graphics are mostly decent. Not as great as the TurboGrafx 16 can do, but the multi-layered scrolling is actually pretty good in some parts. The music sucks though. So yeah, if you want to play Darkwing Duck, you're going to want to go with the NES game over this one. And there you go, more games that were better on the weaker hardware. I suppose I could have put Jaguar Doom against Saturn Doom as well, because it absolutely is way better than the Saturn Doom, but I think I'm all doomed out for the day. But it does deserve a mention. So what are some games that you feel are better on the weaker platform? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. Lord of the Sword. Landau is on a quest to rid the land of evil and become king. He must help the villagers, but he knows not where to go. Can he read these signs so that he may find his way? Alas, he cannot. Landau's own map tells him nothing. Lord of the Sword, Duke of the Bow and Arrow, hast thou met the Tree People? Landau must try, but everything stands in his way. The scorpions, the fish, the birds, the centipedes in the grass, even the clowns all want Landau dead. For he must cast the evil book in the mountain of fire. This is the only way he can rid the land of evil. Regrettably, Landau must press up to jump, which is not ideal. It is dangerous out here. Oh no! Landau has died, felled by a small jumping snake. His quest is at an end. Poor Landau. But what is this? Continue? Landau has miraculously risen. He has renewed vigor to complete his quest. The Tree People shall meet their demise. Even this floating devil will be defeated. Landau's inept jumping abilities shall not stop him. Lord of the Sword, this scorpion impedes Landau's path. How can he proceed? He has tricked the scorpion and now it cannot escape. He shall spread his evil no more. Landau burns the book. He defeats Medusa. He traverses the maze-like corridors. He defeats the supreme evil in the land. Landau is now king and lord of the sword.